Look around your room for a second. Light, sound, cold air, printed words, moving pictures. They seem natural, almost automatic, like weather or gravity. Yet behind several of these quiet comforts sits the same place on the map, in the same habit of thinking. Engineers, they're liked to solve a problem once, then leave the solution almost untouched for generations. Not fighter jets or luxury cars, just small tools, home machines, science devices you barely notice. 11 such inventions still define modern life, and no other country has really beaten their original German designs. You rarely stop to question them. You'll see 11 everyday German inventions copied worldwide, whose original designs still stand unbeaten by any other country, even today. Street corners can turn into tiny concert halls when someone lifts an odd box with straps and bellows. With each pull and push, rich chords and quick melodies spill into the air, loud enough for a whole crowd. That box is the accordion, and its modern form grew up in the German-speaking world during the 19th century. Makers like Friedrich Buschmann in Berlin fitted metal reeds, a small keyboard on one side, and bass buttons on the other, all joined by folding air chambers. From that setup, a lone musician could haul folk tunes, dance pieces, and sad laments from village to village without a cart or power. Long before loudspeakers, this was a full band you could wear on your chest, and the odd part is how little that idea has changed. Builders have tried electric models and new body shapes, yet the bellows, keys, and buttons still rule the sound that pours into crowded streets night after night. In many school labs, curiosity began with a metal tube and a blue flame on the bench. You turned a tap, struck a match, and watched the fire grow taller without dancing like a candle. That controlled heat is the Bunsen burner, a gift from German chemist Robert Bunsen in the 1850s. Before his design, experiments relied on lamps and open fires that burned dirty and uneven. Bunsen's idea was simple, yet strict. Mix gas with the right amount of air before burning, shape the column, and let the user tune the flow carefully. One key change turned that rough fire into something you could aim and measure. Small openings near the base decide whether the flame stays wild or becomes truly steady enough for careful work. Now, behind that cone of blue, air holes feed oxygen and keep the flame hot, clean, and invisible at the center. Modern labs use hot plates and gear, but when students learn what a good flame looks like, they still meet Bunsen's pattern first. Morning routines can start out blurry. You reach for a tiny clear disc, place it on a fingertip, and move it toward the eye, even though reflexes tell you to close it. A moment of sting, a blink, and the world snaps into sharp lines without any frame on the nose. That quiet magic traces back to the German-speaking world in the late 19th century. In 1887, glassblower F.A. Müller made large curved shells that rested on the surface of the eye instead of hanging in front of it. 1 year later, eye doctor Adolf Fick used such lenses on patients and proved that direct contact could correct sight. Those early pieces were heavy and short-lived, yet they set the rule everyone else still follows. Materials changed, edges grew smoother, and cleaners, liquids, and disposables arrived, but the core method stayed fixed. A shaped lens rests on the eye and bends light before it reaches the inside. For all the upgrades, no country found a cleaner idea than that German experiment first. On some evenings, a flat black disc starts to spin, and a thin arm moves toward it. A tiny point sinks into a winding groove. There is a soft crackle, and then music steps out of the noise. For many people, this scene feels old-fashioned, yet it still pulls them in. The machine at the center of it grew from the work of Emil Berliner, a German-born inventor from Hanover. In the late 1800s, he stopped using bulky wax cylinders and chose hard discs that could be pressed in large batches. That shift from cylinder to disc changed how songs moved through the world, but it hid a larger secret. With his gramophone, one careful cut in a groove could reach thousands of homes with the same sound. Modern players add better motors, magnets, and needles, and digital tools store songs as numbers, yet the core path stays the same. A spinning disc carries a pattern, a stylus follows it, and no country has replaced that simple German layout for recorded music, even in a streaming age. What does a virus look like when you zoom in far past any school microscope? To answer that, scientists had to trade light for something far stranger. In early 1930s, Berlin, Ernst Ruska and Max Knoll built a new kind of lens system that focused a beam of electrons instead of rays of light. Electrons move in waves much smaller than what your eyes can see, so their machine could show details thousands of times finer. For the first time, doctors could see virus shapes, cell walls, and tiny parts inside living tissue. Engineers could study cracks in metal, crystal patterns, and the layers in modern chips, which makes what happened next even stranger. In a century that loves new versions of everything, this tool is almost stubborn. Today's giant lab machines still follow the same path Ruska proved. Send electrons through or across a thin sample, bend the beam with magnetic fields, measure the signal, then turn it into an image. Makers add sharper detectors and computer tricks, yet the deep layout stays German. Nobody has replaced that basic map for seeing small things. It still defines microscopic work. A white box hums softly against the wall of your kitchen. Behind its door, milk, fruit, and leftovers wait in safe cold air. For most of history, people only had ice blocks, deep cellars, salt, and smoke to fight decay. Modern cooling began to change that when German engineer Carl von Linne started building reliable refrigeration machines in the 1870s. He worked out a cycle where a gas is squeezed, gives off heat, then expands again and soaks up warmth from its surroundings. Breweries and meat plants used his systems first, then ships, warehouses, and finally homes borrowed the same trick. Yet, the real surprise is how little that basic plan changed in more than a century. That quiet loop of compression and expansion still sits at the heart of the fridge by your sink. If you stripped away the plastic shelves and lights, the core engine would look very familiar to von Linne. New models use safer gases, tighter seals, smart screens, and power-saving parts. Yet the method barely shifted. Other countries tweaked shapes and added gadgets, but nobody left this German map for a cleaner way to keep food fresh every day.